Let's explore Meditation Gone Wild, a shocking story. This evening's lesson is drawn from a good-hearted question found on Reddit. The question begins, a scary sensation through whole body and mind while meditating. And then the author of the question elaborates. I'm fairly new to meditating, and I've started experiencing something that I'm scared of fully embracing while meditating. It's like I get to a certain point, and my whole body begins to surge with energy that does not feel like pleasant energy. I start sweating from my face and feel slightly nauseous. It feels like I'm letting go of my body, but I'm scared of doing so. I was wondering if anyone has had a similar experience and could share some insights. And if I should embrace this feeling, even if it doesn't feel very good in the moment. Good news. I am no stranger to this story. I've heard it from many people over many years. So let us begin with broad brushstrokes. I'm going to begin by insulting your intelligence and telling you something that you already know. Not all meditation techniques are created equal. So I'd like to explore that further. But first, you must explore a premise, if that's okay. Sturgeon's law reminds us that 90% of everything sucks, but not in the fun, tingly way. Therefore, it should come as a little surprise that 90% of everyone, including meditation teachers, tend to think being rigid, fearful, superstitious, controlling, elitist, cryptic, competitive, and cruel is A-OK. In fact, these people will look down their nose at the minority of those who strive to be flexible, loving, rational, laid-back, egalitarian, lucid, cooperative, and kind. When we rely on techniques crafted by those who are rigid, fearful, superstitious, and controlling, we get negative results. When we use techniques crafted by those who are flexible, loving, rational, laid back, we get better results. But don't take my word for it. Who the hell am I? I'm just some guy on YouTube. Let's see what the neuroscience has to say on the subject. Let us begin with this artist's interpretation of a rather simplified version of a side view of the human brain. The majority of meditation books and the majority of meditation teachers will implore their students to actively focus and to actively analyze. Unfortunately, the only way to do that is to rely on very discrete portions of our brain, such as those found in the medial prefrontal cortex or the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex. I'm a little sleep deprived, and so I'm slurring it. So if it looks like I'm straining, that's why. So, what happens when we rely upon this part of the brain? Well, first of all, let me just say that this prefrontal cortex is splendid. Man, if you want to compare, contrast, calculate, analyze, reason, edit, it is your best buddy. However, like any other system in the body, it can be overused, especially when it's being used for a task for which it has not evolved. Imagine how difficult it would be to polish a mirror using the claw of a hammer. We got to use the right tool for the right job. What happens if we not only persist in using the prefrontal cortex, but overuse it? We begin to trigger our amygdala, this lumpy-looking almond-shaped thing at the bottom of our limbic system. This bad boy is wired is basically functions as the seat of aggression and anxiety. And the more this gets triggered, like the descent down a negative spiral or downward spiral, we get more and more rigid and fearful and controlling. Which means we will rely even more upon these areas that are dedicated for active focus and active analysis. What happens if we persist in overtaxing this prefrontal cortex? We could begin presenting with symptoms of depression. And let's face it, no one signs up for meditation because they're experiencing a lack, a scarcity of rage and despair and terror. That's the opposite of what they want. Am I right? So, fortunately, evolution has given us a different tool to use. And I'd like to introduce that to you. Our central nervous system is not just comprised of our brain. It's also comprised of our spinal cord. Let's begin with mindfulness. Every time we inhale, whether we know it or not, we are accessing our sympathetic nervous system found in the middle third of our spinal cord. This bad boy has evolved not only to help us perceive, but to help us do so vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly. Already this sounds less like being rigid and fearful and controlling, and more like being flexible and loving and laid back. Now, we're wired to notice all sorts of things. We are wired to notice sights, sounds, sensations, flavors, scents, and the like. We're also wired to perceive emotions, intentions, thoughts, memories, and imaginings. Everything. From the external to the internal, from the physical to the mental, from the pleasurable to the painful, from the interesting to the boring, from the glorious to the grotesque. I thought there was supposed to be some good news here. How do we deal with noticing grotesqueries? Check this out. When it comes to meditation, every time we exhale, whether we know it or not, we are wired by evolution to access the parasympathetic nervous system vulnerably, passively, automatically, spontaneously. Now, this parasympathetic nervous system is found in the lower third and the upper third of the same spinal cord. Pretty convenient. This parasympathetic nervous system is wired in such a way as to support physical relaxation and mental release. Excuse me, my sinuses are barking. Okay. So here's how this works. It sounds like you were given instructions to focus on something, probably your breath. And all that focusing triggered your amygdala right here, this thing that looks like an almond, perhaps a Brazil nut. And it exacerbated your anxiety. And those symptoms you're experiencing are great. If you're in the woods being chased by a bear, sweating profusely will help enhance your grip. Sadly, there was no bear, and that sweating went to waste. You being perceptive of your body's reaction to that particular set of meditation instructions was a good thing. Not a comfortable thing, not a convenient thing, but a good thing. The Buddha is said to have taught the 7 enlightenment factors. The 4th and the 5th pertain to joy and tranquility. Now you could say, but what about energy? Well, if your energy negates joy and negates tranquility, then again, not all energy is created equal. The type of energy we're talking about is subtle and joyful and peaceful and will not make you feel like you're having a heart attack. So, if the method you are using or the teacher you're relying upon is not enhancing your joy and tranquility, then I would remind you that there's more than one technique and there's more than one teacher. And just like they sang in the 50s or early 60s, my mama told me, you better shop around. World's worst singer at your service. So there you have it. You might say, now listen here, Lama Jigme, you oddly dressed fellow with questionable hair. You tell me I have a sympathetic nervous system and a parasympathetic nervous system. You tell me they're wired for perception and release. Why do I need to meditate then? Well, because we got this big old brain. It's kind of like a clown car. Overoccupied. So many different mechanisms firing at the same time. It's just like being in an overcrowded dance floor. So, or like being in the storage unit of a hoarder. But here's something wild. Whenever we silently, mentally, and passively recite the demonstrative pronoun this during our inhalation, our brain, our klutzy, overworked brain begins to actually cooperate with our sympathetic nervous system, which is great. Similarly, again, when we silently, mentally, and passively recite the one-syllable verb ease during our exhalation, this exact same brain begins cooperating with our parasympathetic nervous system. So whether we're sitting in meditation or whether we're doing brisk walking meditation, we are using the silent recitation of monosyllabic words to ensure the cooperation of our brain with the various facets of the autonomic nervous system located in the spinal cord. Pretty cool, huh? Well, what I'd like to do is, together as a team, do a little bit of chanting and a little bit of practice. I'd like to do so after approximately 30 seconds of housekeeping. This is Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. For more than 30 years, I've spent about 8 hours a day, almost every day, studying, practicing, mastering, and reverse engineering the teachings and techniques of each sect, of each school of meditation, so that you would not have to. Welcome, my friends, to Meditate Like a Jedi, which is made possible due to the generosity of viewers just like you. I think it could be fun if together as a team we chanted a handful of selections from the Spaciousness of Diamond Mind, written oh so many centuries ago by Vajra, translated into English by Yeshe Dondon, adapted and amplified by this MOOC. Please chant with me. The energetic oopsie, that's odd. I gotta make sure this fits on the screen. Okay. I am just Captain Coordination, huh? The energetic radiance of consciousness dwells in all that is and is the way for all. For those lost in ignorance, confused in obscurations, it is like a medicine in search of a doctor to prescribe what is needed. So this is a really fun passage. There is a myth that when we sit in meditation, we're not supposed to perceive or think or emote or intend or imagine or recall. We're just supposed to be, just supposed to have a blank mind. But that's not what the Buddha taught. That's what some poophead taught. And so to reaffirm what the Buddha already taught, there's an idea that our brain is supposed to be dynamic. And that's not a bad thing. The dynamism, the energy of our ability, our hunger to perceive, emote, intend, reason, recall, and imagine gives us something to notice, and then gives us something to release. Just as locomotives of yore relied on coal to fuel the fires of the burner to drive the steam engine, likewise, the steam engine of our meditation relies upon the dynamism of our mind. And so we are being reminded that that is not a bad thing. It is a very good thing. So for those of us who are confused, for those of us who feel like instead of having survival mechanisms that serve us as tools, instead our survival mechanisms become tyrants and make dicks of us, one and all. Just like the song from the 70s, everybody plays the fool. But that ain't fun. And that's a remarkably effective way of squandering our life. And so in our befuddlement, in our confusion, we're like medicine in search of a doctor, which is supposed to sound bass-ackwards. And so the great irony for our turmoil is the turmoil itself. Just like firefighters. I forgot what you call the firefighters who don't really work on houses. They work more with the hillsides, the wild firefighters. They have a term you've probably heard before: fight fire with fire. If you use a controlled burn in one area, then in that controlled area is in the path of a fire. Then when the fire gets there, there's no more fuel because that fuel's already been consumed in a controlled burn. Hence, you fought fire, you fought a wildfire with a controlled fire. Similarly, the great irony is that the turmoil of our lives can be healed with the turmoil of our lives, assuming that that turmoil that we're using is funneled through the apparatus of our autonomic nervous system's ability to notice and release in harmony with our breathing. So now let's practice. For about 13 minutes or so. Let us begin by counting 12 rounds upon the creases of our right hand. A round is just one inhalation followed by one exhalation. What I like to do is during each inhalation, advance the tip of my thumb upon the creases of my hand. You're welcome to join with me if you wish. So we've just counted one set of 12 rounds. So I'd like to introduce you to a method to count multiple sets of 12 rounds. The first method, the first of two methods, is relying upon the great knuckles. So what we can do is we can take our left index finger and trace along the back of our right index finger and come until we come to this great knuckle, resting our hands in the lap thusly, with the left index finger coming into contact with the great knuckle of the right index finger, causes our real or imagined subtle energy to spontaneously gather at the crown of our head, while also reminding us that we're practicing our first of 4 sets of 72 breaths. If you're good with math, you've probably figured out that 8 times 12 is 72. So let's figure out how to count 8 sets of 12 repetitions upon just 4 fingers of our left hand. Let's begin by placing the tip of our left thumb on the first or the lower set of creases upon our left index finger, and then persist in resting the tip of the left index finger upon the great knuckle of our right index finger. On our left hand, we advance the thumb vertically. Let us advance our left thumb diagonally. Let us advance our left thumb vertically. Let us advance our left thumb diagonally. Let us advance our left thumb vertically. Let us advance our left thumb diagonally. Let us advance our left thumb vertically. Oof. Please chant with me. From within the field of our understanding, bliss arises, revealing the ordinary world as pristinely pure. I think this is an opportunity for an edit, so please bear with me. All right. Thank you for bearing with me. Please continue. When lights from all directions come together at one's heart, one realizes omnipresent divinity up below and in all directions. So there are many people who try to contrive bliss. We contrive bliss through breathing exercises, visualizations, invocations, and various forms of tantric sex. But if we just persist in breathing naturally, letting the medulla oblongata of our brainstem determine the rate and depth of breath, and just allowing ourselves to go along for the ride, noticing and releasing in harmony with this mechanism, then bliss will occur. Bliss may be literal, it may be figurative. The figurative bliss of being able to process whatever comes up from the present, from the past, from a potential future, whether it's glorious, whether it's grotesque, whether it's interesting, or whether it's boring. So how is our ordinary world pristinely pure? That's going to be revealed in the next page. Where do we breathe? From our lungs. Where are our lungs located? In our rib cage on either side of our heart. So we don't have to force something weird. We're already wired to breathe this way. That's where our lungs are. But what do we mean by divinity? Here, divinity is a metaphor. And it goes like this. As we relax, we'll start with the circumstantial. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever circumstances we noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel as if they were as non-graspable as a Buddha's real or imagined paradise or Pure Land or Vati comprised only of light. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever bodies we may have noticed during our inhalation could begin to feel as if they were as non-graspable as a archetype of enlightenment's body comprised only of bliss-inducing light. Sensual, yet void. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever relationships we might have noticed during our inhalation could begin to feel as if they were as non-graspable as a Buddha's loving communication symbolized by a mantra comprised only of light resounding, yet void. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever perception, emotion, intention, thought, memory, or imagination we might have noticed during our inhalation could begin to feel as if it was as non-graspable as a Buddha's mind, as a real or imagined Buddha's mind symbolized by a one-syllable mantra comprised only of light, lucid, yet void. This is not something that needs to be memorized. This is not something that needs to be visualized. This is not something that needs to be intended. This is not something that needs to be believed. Persisting with breathing, persisting with noticing and releasing in harmony with our inhalation and our exhalation causes us to experience whatever we notice. Literally and figuratively. Permanently and temporarily. Interdependently and independently. Solidly and intangibly. samsadically and nirvanically. Let's practice. Since we are on this evening's second set of meditations, let's keep track of that by using our left middle fingertip to trace the back of our right middle finger down to its great knuckle. So let us rest our hands in our lap thusly. Let us touch the tip of our thumb to the lower set of creases on our left thumb, reminding us that we're starting our first set of 12 rounds. We're going to count those 12 rounds on our right hand. And even though yours is in your lap, I'm going to put mine in front of the camera. Let's count in harmony with our breathing. Please chant with me. Oops, one more. My mistake. Yeah. This is one of my favorite verses. Please chant with me. From the colors of the rainbow, the primordial families and their qualities are manifest. Compounded moving parts and the uncompounded unmoving base, along with the deities of the five elements that animate creation. So, let's explore what this guy's talking about. So, he was this is metaphors based on metaphysics that were very popular when this was written. Approximately 6 or 8, I think about 600 CE, but I may be mistaken. I could look it up. Let me do that real quick. Let's see. Yeah, in the 600s. Okay. Oh boy. Okay. So, the idea of the 5 Buddha families and the 5 colors and the 5 elements was very, very popular. This guy's not saying it's true. This guy's not saying it's not true. This guy's saying, let's take this common experience and explore it metaphorically. So, consider it this way. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever hate we may have experienced during our inhalation could come to feel as if it was as non-graspable as the mirror-like wisdom of Akshobhya's Vajra family. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever pride or clinging we might have noticed during our inhalation could feel as if it was as non-graspable as the equalizing wisdom of Ratnasambhava's jewel family. And so we see each of these 5 Buddhas sitting in tantric union with their consort. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever craving we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel as if it was as non-graspable as the discerning wisdom of Amitabha's lotus family. We see Amitabha sitting in tantric union with his consort right here. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever jealousy or competitiveness we might have noticed during our inhalation could begin to feel as if it was as non-graspable as the all-accomplishing wisdom of Amagosiddhi's action family or karma family. Depicted right here. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever confusion or befuddlement we might have noticed during our inhalation could begin to feel as if it was as non-graspable as the all-pervading wisdom of Vairochana's Buddha family, depicted here. Compounded moving parts in the uncompounded unmoving base. So as we breathe in, we observe all sorts of things. As we relax into our exhalation, they all begin to taste of non-graspability. So the deity of the five elements that animate creation. So the bliss and release of mindfulness's vulnerable inhalation and meditation's relaxing exhalation, effortlessly lavish. Our water element with the empowerment of Akshobhya. Our earth element with the empowerment of Ratnasambhava. Our fire element with the empowerment of Amitabha. Our wind element with the empowerment of Amagosiddhi. And our space element, with the empowerment of Vairochana. And actually, I would probably rather rephrase that to presence. So this is all very spooky and it sounds very metaphysical, and now that we have the basic colors of the palette, let's paint with them. There is this myth that there is a vertical division between us and the Buddhas, but that is an illusion of duality. The Buddhas, real or imagined, and their five wisdoms are already present in us. With every inhalation, we are capable of noticing whichever of the five poisons manifests. And with each exhalation, we're able to, whatever poison that manifested melts into its corresponding five wisdoms. Whatever grotesquerie we noticed during our inhalation melts into its corresponding glory in our exhalation. Therefore, it's safe to notice even that which embarrasses us. The secret to this is the dynamo of inhaling and exhaling, noticing and releasing that which is samsaric and that which is nirvanic. Not only are we noticing the 5 mental poisons and the 5 enlightening wisdoms, not only are the 5 wisdoms manifest spontaneously in each exhalation, but likewise in each inhalation we notice the 5 elements. And with each exhalation we experience their non-duality with the 5 real or imagined jhana Buddhas. The dynamism of our chi or prana or lung is experienced as being just as empty as Amagosati. The solidity of our bones it can be experienced as just as void as Zarana Sambhava. The liquidity of our blood and phlegm and saliva and other fluids are just as empty as Akshobhya. Our heat, our fire, our warmth, our metabolic processes are just as empty as Amitabha. Our experience of spaciousness, of not being compressed like a seed, but being more like a willow in the breeze, able to dance about the apartment like a cat with the zoomies. That quality of us is just as empty as Varochana. Good or bad or innocuous, every facet that we can think of as being a component of us, whether that is real or imagined, is non-dual with enlightenment. We already have Buddha nature. We have the basis, due to our sympathetic nervous system, we are wired for mindfulness. Due to our parasympathetic nervous system, we are wired for meditation. Due to our anterior cingulate gyrus, we are wired for empathy. With the words this and ease functioning as the keys unlocking the vault door of our birthright, we already possess the mindfulness, meditation, and empathy of a Buddha. The only thing that separates us from a Buddha is our mastery of the Eightfold Path, which can be done in a week. You'll still feel the full spectrum of human, you'll still experience the full spectrum of human perceptions, emotions, intentions, thoughts, memories, and imaginings, but no longer will you be their slave. Let's meditate. Oh, won't you please chant with me? Notions like past, present, and future cannot comprehend the nature of the unborn unceasing. In truth, nothing arises, nothing ceases. The wisdom of source unifies all and dispels any such notions. Active concentration and active analysis are Jim Dandy if you want to create a longer lasting light bulb. If you want to compare, contrast, calculate, compute, reason, edit, these things are wonderful. But if you wish to practice mindfulness and meditation, we must rely upon our sympathetic nervous system as easily as silently, mentally, and passively reciting these words in harmony with our inhalation and our exhalation. Doing so, we escape the tyranny of our controlling tendencies that fail to help us to master letting go. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel. In approximately 10 2/3 hours, I would very much like to return to lead tomorrow's early meditation class and group practice. And if you are as geeky as me, may the Force be with you always.